notice of motions before I afforded the House the opportunity to consider those motions. Therefore, I would call on any member who wishes to give a notice of a motion. No. I will first consider what we're dealing with today and afford members an opportunity to deal with those that we have deferred. But we will deal with them today. Honorable Julius.
Deputy Chair, just to, if you can allow me to assist, is that we dealt with all the notices. It was the others, motion without notice, that in the middle we stopped and then you correct the situation after that. So there are no deferred notice of a motion, but there are only motions without notices that were deferred.
In assisting yourself, or I don't know whom you are assisting, because I spoke about motions. Whatever that happened on Tuesday, we agreed as a House that will defer. And I said, and I made a commitment that on Thursday, which is today, we will consider those motions. It is for a member to then indicate whether if his or her motion read as a notice, whereas it was a motion without notice, then clarify the House and we shall proceed in that way. So for today, let us start with notices of a motion. Is there any member who wishes to? I've got three names here. Honorable Labuskaghni.
Honorable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move with notice that this Council debates the scale of gang-related violence impacting severely on all citizens, especially on the vulnerable, innocent school-going youth in the Cape Flats, and the need to ensure safety to our citizens by deploying the army to strengthen the under-resourced.
Deferred motions. An opportunity to the deferred motions. Honorable Makweb.
Honorable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to express our sincere condolences on passing of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, who died at the age of 76 last Thursday, 16 August 2018, in Detroit, Michigan, in the United States of America. She will forever be remembered for incredible voice and significant contribution to the music industry. A strong woman with an independent spirit, Franklin was embraced and loved by all people from all walks of life. No one will ever forget the sweet, soothing sounds of songs like "You Make Me Feel Like a Woman," "Respect," "I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You." One of the most remarkable women she has been, who began to shatter that ceiling, making way for others to follow. May her soul rest in peace. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is therefore agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mateme? No, Kaula? Before Mateme, Kaula.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo hloniphekile. On behalf of Inkatha Freedom Party, I hereby move without notice that the House notes that the state capture inquiry has finally commenced on Monday, 20th August 2018. Further notes that it is expected to last 24 months. Acknowledges the devastation state capture has wrought on the economy while bringing all SOEs to their knees. Register concern with the chairperson of the Commission's utterances that not many whistleblowers have come forward with information to assist the work of the Commission. Calls on all South Africans who might have information on state capture to submit information to the Commission so that it is able to do its work thoroughly and without fear or favor. And lastly, pledges support for the work of the Commission and expresses hope that all those who have fleeced the state of millions will be brought to book. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? The The motion is therefore agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that Council one notes with utmost appreciation the Women's Charter Review Conference which was held in Parliament on the 20th of August under the theme Assessing Progress for Women since the adoption of the 1954 Women's Charter and the 1994 Women's Charter for Effective Equality. Council further notes that the conference, which was attended by various gender activists and representatives from various civil society organizations across the country, served as a launching pad to engage women across all sectors of society on the most pertinent challenges still facing women today. Council further notes that the inputs that were made at the conference are intended to culminate into adoption of a contextually relevant Women's Charter in March 2019. Council takes this opportunity to congratulate the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy Speaker, and the Chairperson of the Women's Caucus for convening such an important engagement. And lastly, Council expresses appreciation to the various staff members under the leadership of the Acting Secretary of Parliament, Ms. Baby Tiawa, for making sure that the conference becomes a resounding success. I'll so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is therefore agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mateme.
Thank you, Chairperson of the session. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the Council, one, notes with the utmost concern and apprehension reports that the EFF is failing to protect women within the party as they continue to battle assault, violence, and sexual harassment by some leaders of the party. Two, further notes that in one incident, a Northwest Deputy Chairperson allegedly told a junior staff member during a confrontation in his office that he would have her genitals cut off, and that a second incident involves the party Limpopo secretary who was accused of physically assaulting a female member at a regional conference in 2016. And thirdly, further notes with utmost apprehension.
Honorable Mateme, can you just take a seat? On what point are you rising, Honorable?
On a point of order, Chair? Chair, the last time I checked, matters cannot be raised in this House if they are still before the courts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I did not hear any. Is there, on that motion, Honorable Mateme,
Yeah.
are matters before the court?
Yes.
Are the cases opened and matters before the court in terms of being on the roll?
Not according to the sources for this motion.
Okay. No. Then it changes the whole ball. Take your seat. Take your seat. That changes the whole ball game. Honorable members, everybody has got the right to freedom of speech. If at all there is a matter that is before a court of law and it is considered and it has been placed before this House, a member has got the right to object and follow the processes, and the House will therefore be informed. Can you continue, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thirdly, further notice with utmost apprehension and concern that the victims are said not to be receiving any counseling from the party and are totally ignored by the leadership of the party. Lastly, take this opportunity, Chair, to condemn in the harshest possible terms any form of violence or harassment against women, especially by people who use their positions and influence to wage utter violence and harassment of women, Chair, across all political organizations. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Okay. In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice of a motion. Did you hear what I said? Okay, fine. Honorable Singh is not in the house. Honorable Julius?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I wish to move a motion without notice that this House congratulates Solly Nsimanga on his election as DA Gauteng Premier candidate for the 2019 national elections. Further note that Solly represents a new generation of DA leaders who are young, charismatic, articulate, competent, and wholeheartedly committed to improving the lives of South
Can
Africans.
you listen to the motion? Honorable members, can you listen to the motion?
Can I start over just to rub it in?
No, just where I interrupted you.
Further note that Solly represents a new generation of DA leaders who are young, charismatic, articulate, competent, and wholeheartedly committed to improving the lives of South Africans. Under the DA Premier candidate Nsimanga, Gauteng will now have an opportunity to vote for a party with a track record of caring for the people, creating jobs, and stopping at nothing to halt the scourge of corruption, unlike the ANC. Solly Nsimanga understands that the only way to truly get rid of corruption is to change this government, and he will ask the people just to do that in 2019 to vote DA. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Honorable members, Isaac? No. I was calling you to order. No, I was calling you to order. Can you take your seat? Take your seat, honorable member. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Mukwele made it very clear on Tuesday that her motion was a notice. So it was treated as a notice of a motion. The last one would be Honorable Isaac.
Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that this House notes the appointment of Mr. Mark Kinghorn as Acting Commissioner of SARS. Chairperson, you're not listening.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. That this House notes the appointment of Mr. Mark Kinghorn as Acting Commissioner of SARS, a vital and key institution of the state. Of course, we are more than happy to see the now dubious Tom Moyani having been fired. Further notes, the looting of state resources has had huge ramifications at SARS, as well as our country. Levels of public trust and credibility of an institution that was once a global leading institution now remain low. And further notes that in this financial year alone, SARS must collect a target of some 1.345 million rand. I quote Mr. Kinghorn in conclusion, Chairperson. To rebuild trust is a long and hard road, but it must be done if we are going to resolve the issue and regain the confidence, both in the country and globally, unquote. We wish our new Acting Commissioner of SARS every success in this mammoth task. I so move. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the motions that have been deferred. Oh, okay. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. That brings us, honorable members, to the end of the deferred motions. For the record, Honorable Isaac, that brings us to the end of the deferred motions without notices. Now we'll proceed with today's motions without notices. For now, I have already two Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that Council 1 notes that the Premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille, received a hostile reception when trying to address disgruntled Khayelitsha pupils, teachers, and parents, and community organizations too. Council notes that there was a group of people gathered at Kaisergracht Street to march to the CPD, demanding immediate safety at schools in the township. 3, Council further notes that the schools were closed while the students and teachers participated in the gathering, following a spate of burglary and armed robberies on school premises which occurred during the day. 4th, and lastly, Council therefore calls upon the MEC for Education and Community Safety in the Western Cape to make sure that township schools are secured so that learning can take place. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Yes. In the light of an objection, the motion shall then read as a notice. Honorable Wana.
Protection, Chairperson. Magwebi is harassing me.
You are well protected.
Okay, thanks.
Can I protect Honorable Wana? Continue, Honorable Wana.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with concern the tweet that from President of USA regarding the land reforms that South Africa is undertaking. Number 2, further note that in his tweet, he claims to have asked the Secretary of the State to closely study the South African land and farmer seizures and expropriation and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers, which is not true. Number 3, also note that his tweet transpired from being misinformed and misguided in the sense that he thinks the land expropriation without compensation that our country is engaging on is about land seizures and victimizing our white citizens. 4, therefore, urge President Donald Trump to give himself some time and meet the President of South Africa and understand the process of land expropriation without compensation. I do move, Chairperson.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Oliphant.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the Council notes that the killers of Zaraita were sent to jail for life after they attacked her with a hammer and dumped her body on a farm. Also note that Hector's killer, Ronaldo van Rooyen, and Tuivek Abraham, who were friends at the time of the murder, were also sentenced at 15 years each for robbery with aggravating circumstances. Further notes that Hector, a mother of 2, was murdered in 2016 in the garage of Van Rooyen's home in Kuilsrivier. Therefore, congratulate the police and the prosecution on their success and hope that the sentence will send a clear message of no tolerance for violence against women. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, your motion, Honorable Oliphant, your motion shall therefore be agreed to in terms of Section 65. Honorable Julius.
Baie dankie, agbare ondervoorsitter. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance,
Order,
I
honorable
hereby
member.
move a motion without notice that this council condemns in the strongest possible terms the undignified, horrific racist sentiment expressed by one Adam Katsavolis, a resident of Johannesburg, while on holiday in Greece.
Honorable
Katsavelos
members, can I
recorded
hear the
himself.
motion, please? Can you stop what you're doing? Continue, honorable member.
While on holiday in Greece, Katsavelos recorded himself describing the conditions of the beach, followed by a racist expletive directed towards black South Africans. Further condemned the unjustified racism that still exists in our country today and how it continues to undermine the reconciliation project, and call upon South Africans of all walks of life to continue the good fight that will see a South Africa for all the people living, working, and interacting together based on a level of equal respect and appreciation for one another. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, therefore, the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Hatting.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Deputy Chair. Honorable Deputy Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, noting that the judicial inquiry state capture during the terms of office of former President Jacob Zuma has begun, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that all possible witnesses will avail themselves without fear or intimidation to testify to end the devastating plundering of our resources and to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. I so move.
No. Maybe the title. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Mampuru.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that Council knows that the National Arts Council of South Africa Chairperson, Mr. Hartley Ngwatu, was assaulted and called a K-word whilst on an outing in Hartbeespoort Dam in the Northwest. Also knows that Mr. Ngwatu was assaulted by a white man and sustained severe laceration to the head, braces, and cuts to his face as a result of the attack on him whilst his friend was held back by another man. Knows that the attack on Ngwatu comes at a time when racial tensions in Hartbeespoort are at a peak following vehement opposition by the predominantly white Afrikaner community to increased applications by black people seeking leases to conduct business on state land along the shores of the dam. Therefore, call on all the police to make sure that the perpetrators of this crime face the full might of the law. I so move.
Thank you very much. Any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, therefore, the motion shall be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mateme.
Chairperson, thank you very, very much. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the Council, one, knows and welcomes with appreciation the success of the meeting between the President of the Republic, Mr. Ramaphosa, Honorable Ramaphosa, the Minister in the Presidency responsible for planning, monitoring, and evaluation, Honorable Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, with the CEO, Dr. John Patches, and Agri South Africa President Dan Creek this week, Tuesday. 2. Also note that the purpose of the meeting was to introduce a sector-based approach to inclusive growth and employment, specifically for the agro-food value chain. 3, further note that there was an overwhelming agreement and commitment to resolve the land issue and other challenges confronting the primary agriculture industry. Lastly, Chair, therefore call on all leaders in the sectors to work together with government and to remain engaged through the appropriate avenues for the good of our country. I so move, Chair. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, the motion shall therefore be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Labuskaghni.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that this House notes that the claims about by the Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Dlamini Zuma, in this House on 15th August 2018, the Minister alleged that the apartheid-era National Party had merged with the DA and further alleged that the DA has existed for over 300 years. The DA's origins can be traced back to the formation of the Progressive Party in 1959. When the Progressive Party became the official opposition during the 1970s, the party subsequently became the Progressive Reform Party and later the Progressive Federal Party. At this time, the party was led by several prominent opponents of apartheid, including Helen Suzman, Harry Schwartz, Colin Eklund, and Frederik van Zyl-Slabbert. In 1989, the PFP then became the Democratic Party and remained a separate entity from the NP and the New National Party during the 1990s. It was during the 1990s that the NP became the NNP. In 2000, the NNP leadership had planned to merge with the DP to form the DA, but subsequently bowed out of the agreement and opted to form a coalition with the ANC in the Western Cape, only to have later dissolved into the ANC in 2005. The cozy merger between the NNP leadership and the ANC leadership at that time was clearly illustrated with former MP member Martinez van Schalkwyk having served as a cabinet member of both the Mbeki and the Zuma administrations. In 2000, the Democratic Party became the Democratic Alliance.
Honorable member,
It is
your time has
important for
expired.
public observations. Thank you.
Honorable member, your time has expired. Is there any objection? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Be careful, honorable members. 2 minutes. We've got only 2 minutes. Honorable Smith.
Thank
Point
you,
of order.
Honorable
Honorable
Deputy
Smith,
Chair.
Can you just take a seat? On what point are you raising?
Chair, I'm raising on a point of the Honorable Hatti. It's now the second time. I am a Zuma ghost. Now we were objecting about what Honorable Labuskaghni was saying, and we are a Zuma ghost. Now, can you please, because when we start, they will go to the chairperson and say the ANC do this. Now, can you please talk to Honorable Hatti? E mononsi voorde gieni. E mononsi se onze Zuma ghost ni because e keni va play Zuma ni e kenoki mkanda ulekeni.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, those are off the record exchanges. And I cautioned members, even on Tuesday, I did, that whatever that you say to each other, I'm not there to hear, especially if it is not on record. I can't even say I'll consult Hansard. Please, may we behave like honorable members and refer to each other with the greatest of dignity and respect. Let us just respect each other and stop insulting each other or whatever that we are saying to each other silently, whatever that we are saying. I don't know, I'm here. So please, Honorable Julius, I'm trying to caution the House. Can we refrain? Can we please refrain from that? Because now you are putting me in a very difficult situation, Honorable Julius. Therefore, honorable members, can we continue with the motions? Honorable Chabangu? It was Honorable Smith, sorry. You see now? Or you almost look like a Chabangu.
Well, I won't make any comment. Honorable Deputy Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes that with dismay the blatant looting of Mogalakwena local municipality's coffers. An amount of 6 million rand has been invoiced to the municipality by a contractor for grass and bush cutting in extension 19 and 20 of Mokopane. while the Municipal Parks Division are already in process of conducting such cleanups. This concerned contractor was appointed by the municipality in 2014 to provide ad hoc maintenance services and vehicle maintenances and repairs only. It is evident that this contractor was awarded the tender without it first being advertised and having gone through the correct procedures. The same municipality has hundreds of faulty streetlights due to lack of funds to purchase new light bulbs, and has hundreds of residents who still have no access to drinking water or to wash clothes, and consequently must dig in riverbanks to survive. A special ovation to the DA Councillor Yolandi Kutsia for exposing this attempt to defraud the municipality before the payments were processed. Refer to the Select Committee of Corporate Governance
Your
and
time has
Traditional
expired.
Affairs to summons these officials to account
The fact that
for
you
this.
are continuing, honourable member, when I warned you that your time has expired, your
didn't
notice,
hear-
your
I didn't
motion
hear,
without
sorry.
notice will then read
I
as a
didn't hear.
notice of a motion. And maybe just for the purpose of clarity for the House, when you started that motion, I started asking myself whether if we had not passed that motion before. Are you sure? Okay, we'll verify that and then we'll come back. We shall then proceed to Honorable Moshodi.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. I here move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the Council note that the University of the Western Cape has partnered with WARE SA to help fundraise for the missing middle student by hosting a fashion show and donating the ticket sale to the Ingava Letu Student Bursary Fund. Also note that the missing middle category are students who parents or guardian can only afford to pay a portion of the required university fee. Further notes that the South African Clothing and Textile Workers Union is partnering with UWC Center for Entrepreneurs and Innovation through the Union WARE SA initiative. Therefore, Honorable Chairperson, congratulate the UWC and SATU on this very important and progressive initiative. I so move, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks very much.
Is there any objection to the motion? Second last, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Second last, Honorable Chabangu.
On behalf of EFF Deputy Chairperson, I move that the Students' Command of Free State has won for the first time the elections of University of Free State, and this is the indication that EFF is ready to rule. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? Is there any objection? Okay. Can you just speak aloud? You know, when you hit each other, you are so loud, but when it comes to procedural matters, it's yes. Are you objecting to the motion? The motion shall therefore read as a notice of a motion. I now call on the Chief Whip to move the motion regarding the amendment of the order paper.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
I called on the Chief Whip. On what point are you rising, Honorable?
It's my turn to, I'm invited by the Deputy Chair, I must stand.
Chairperson, thank you. I was noted when I had my hand up and it was confirmed that I was noted in terms of my motion without notice. And if you look at your list, my name is there. So I don't understand why I wasn't called to do my motion.
Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, but let me also bring something to the attention of the House. You might have noticed I've been very lenient, and I allowed the House enough time. Ordinarily, we are only allowed, in terms of the rules, 20 minutes for motions. That is in terms of the rules. Whether if your name is on the list, I have your name on the list, but if we had reached a particular time, it's a cutoff. And no, the reason why I was so lenient is because of, we are correcting what happened on Tuesday. Hence, I even allowed more than 20 minutes, an extra 20 minutes on the motions just for today. You might have noticed that. Hence, I'm calling on the Chief Whip now to call on the amendment. Chief Whip.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I move today's order paper be amended to include the consideration of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, ATC, number 21 August of 2018, page 15. Regulations made in terms of section 109, subsection 1A, and in terms of section 109, subsection 1BA, read with subsections 97, 6 and 94, subsection 1 of the Legal Practice Act of 2014. I so move, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip. As I shall now put the question, and the question is that the motion be agreed to. As the decision is dealt with in terms of 65 of the Constitution, I shall first allow provinces an opportunity to make a declaration of vote if they so wish. Is there any province that wishes to make a declaration of vote? In the absence of any, we shall then proceed with the voting, but before I do that, I shall first ascertain as to whether all delegation heads are present. Are they all present in our house? Okay. We'll then proceed with the voting. Eastern Cape?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Eastern Cape supports the motion.
Free State?
Ke a leboha motlatsamodulasetulo, Free State a dumela.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu-Natal?
KwaZulu-Natal yavuma.
Limpopo?
Limpopo re a dumela.
Mpumalanga?
We don't agree.
Northern Cape? Northern Cape?
The Noord Kaap stem saam stoel sector.
Northwest?
We fully support.
Western Cape?
You are playing with borrowed
8 provinces voted in favor against 1 province. Therefore, the majority of provinces voted in favor. Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Security and Justice, regulations made in terms of Section 109, subsection 1, subsection A, and in terms of Section 109, subsection 1, subsection BA, read with Sections 97, subsection 6, and Section 94, subsection 1 of the Legal Practice Act 2014.
Thank you very much. Before I allow Honorable Mthethwa, may I acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister. You're heartily welcome to National Council of Provinces. Honorable Mthethwa.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Report of the Select Committee on the Security and Justice on the regulation made in terms of Section 109, subsection 1A, and the regulations in terms of Section 109, 1BA. Read with Section 97, subsection 6, and 94, subsection 1 of the Legal Practice Act 2014, dated 21 August 2018. The Select Committee on Security and Justice considered the regulations in terms of Section 109, subsection 1A, and the regulation in terms of Section 109, subsection 1BA. Read with Section 97, subsection 6, and 94, subsection 1 of the Legal Practice Act 2014, Act number 28 of 2014. The briefing by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development indicated that in terms of Section 109, subsection 1A of the Act, the minister must, within 6 months after receiving recommendation from the National Forum as provided for in Section 97, subsection 1A, make regulations by publication in the Gazette. In terms of subsection 1C, the regulation must, before publication thereof in the Gazette, be approved by Parliament. Section 97, subsection 1, as amended by the Legal Practice Amendment Act, Act number 16 of 2017, requires the National Forum to make recommendations to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services on the following matters, which recommendations must be converted into regulations to be made by the Minister. A, an election procedure of purposes of consulting the Council. B, the establishment of the Provincial Council. C, the composition, powers and functions of the Provincial Council. D, the manner in which the Provincial Council must be elected. E, all the practical vocational training requirements that candidate attorneys or pupils must comply with before they can be admitted by the court as legal practitioners. F, the right of appearance of a candidate legal practitioner in court or any other institution. And G, a mechanism to wind up the affairs of the National Forum. The regulations recommended by the National Forum and endorsed by the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services was interrogated and considered by the Select Committee on Security and Justice. The committee is satisfied that the regulations have taken into account the need for increased gender representative within the legal profession. Although the current gender split is not optimal at the moment, the Deputy Minister has indicated that part of the business of the South African Legal Practice Council would be to ensure that a charter would be developed and finalized that will ensure that women are able to have greater representativity in the profession. The Legal Practice Act 2014 in itself is a milestone after a decade of discussion, debate, and final agreement. The transformation of the legal profession is one step closer to unifying the different legal societies into one South African Legal Practice Council and establish provincial council that share a single unified vision and shared goal that broadly reflect the diversity and demographics of the Republic. With this, we look forward to even greater progress towards a non-racial, non-sexist, and equal society. Committee recommendation to the National Council of Provinces. The committee, having considered the regulation in terms of Section 109, subsection 1A, and regulation in terms of Section 109, 1BA, read with Section 97, subsection 6, and 94, subsection 1 of the Legal Practice Act 2014, Act number 28 of 2014, reports that it has agreed to the regulations and recommends the National Council of Provinces approve the regulations as tabled by the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Chair, I table this report.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate, and I shall now put the question, and the question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first ascertain whether if there's any province that wishes to make a declaration of vote. Declaration of vote. Western Cape.
Honourable Chairperson, apart from the fact that the Minister missed the deadline by several months, the Western Cape believes in the need for progressive transformation, but rejects the inclusion of apartheid-style strict racial quotas as in the report. We further question the practicality and legality of voting by means of postage. The Western Cape does not support the report.
Thank you very much. Western Cape. On what point are you raising? Oh, okay. Any other declaration? In the absence of any, we shall then proceed with the voting. But before I do that, I need to ascertain as to whether all heads of delegation are present in the House. We shall then proceed with the voting. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape supports the report.
Free State.
Free State supports the report, Honorable Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal supports, Chairperson.
Limpopo.
Limpopo re a dumela.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga is against.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape supports, Chair.
Northwest.
We agree, Chair.
Western Cape.
Oppose.
7 provinces voted in favor and 2 against. Therefore, the majority of provinces voted in favor, and as a result, in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution, the report is agreed to. I have already noted Honorable Secretary. We now come to the subject for discussion as printed on the order paper. And according to my speakers list, the subject matter is supposed to be introduced by Honorable Lond. Honorable Lond, can you introduce the subject matter?
Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy Minister, and good afternoon, Honourable Members. The state of education in South Africa is something that we are all concerned about. While preparing for this speech and the debate, I thought about what the other speakers might possibly say and where my emphasis must be to try and effect maximum change. But as I'm standing here today, I'm confident that not a single person in this House will disagree that our youth are one of the most important constituencies that we serve. That investing in our youth, making sure that they are ready for the challenges of the world, should be one of our top priorities. That tomorrow's leaders should be ready and able to fend for themselves. Because let's be honest, adulting is hard. Some of it, Honourable Deputy Chairperson, has been at this a lot longer than others. But due to the historical nature of our country, the systemic imbalances and injustices, there are those that to this very day who are much better prepared to take on and face the challenges of the world than others. And then some have a safety net to fall back on, while most do not even have that. We as lawmakers have a responsibility to look after every citizen. That responsibility magnifies with the most vulnerable, the very old and the very young. But I want to go further than that. With an election year coming up, the responsibility weighs even more heavily to look after those who do not even have their voice in terms of a vote to express it at the ballot box and say how their representatives looked after them. I'm also confident that every person in this House and the millions we represent will agree that crippling unemployment is a massive crisis in this country, a crisis that we must overcome. Unemployment is approaching 10 million South Africans. That's not just the 10 million that's affected. That's the close family and the extended families that's also affected. We must overcome this. This is a crisis that is non-debatable. Where we must stand up and be held accountable is our responsibilities to the learners in our schools. Children who trust government to help equip them for this adulting, to be able to compete in a job market, and to even be that solution we need in this country, to become entrepreneurs, to become job creators, to look after their own families, but also to other families. We must ensure that once children leave school, the millions of youth that do pass do not just get a worthless certificate that is scoffed at by employers. We need to ensure that that's a quality document that the children can be proud of and that employers will be looking out for. For children to be sufficiently prepared for post-school education, employment, and even more importantly, entrepreneurship, there are two key areas we need to. The first is to get learners to the further education and training phase. When the foundation of a house is not solid, those who are building the house do so in vain. This applies to education as well. Lacking quality learning in early grades is not something that can be caught up in the FET phase. Deputy Minister, your cabinet colleague, Minister Motshega, should know this very well, since she herself announced that according to the Progress in International Reading Literacy Study, 78% of South Africa's future, of our children, grade 4 pupils in this country, cannot read to comprehend in any language. That's not just English, that's in their mother tongues as well. That means that 1 in 5 South Africans cannot even read to comprehend in their own mother tongue by the time they reach grade 4. That is affecting their chances for future learning and working. As representatives of our provinces in the NCOP, we should ask ourselves, ask our provincial MECs, what are the literacy rates in our provinces and what are we doing to improve them? In this house alone, members from Limpopo, 9 in 10 grade 4 learners cannot read with comprehension. That is a crisis, and that is something that we need to address. We need to take hands across the board and say, this is our future that we need to look after and make sure that we equip them better for the future. In Mpumalanga, it's, well, there's one member here today, but in Mpumalanga, they probably misread that there's a debate here, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. But in Mpumalanga, 85% of learners cannot read to comprehend. And the Eastern Cape is not far behind. This is 83%. This is a problem across the country. Even the best performing provinces need to address that, because even if you sit at this level, you need to strive to go to the next level. In many provinces, we fail our children by not ensuring that those we entrust to teach them can do the job they are paid to do. While much effort is put into initial teacher training, existing teachers are being left out. In 2016, the Department of Basic Education listed more than 5,000 teachers as underqualified for their positions, where teachers often fail the very subjects that they get paid to teach. How then do we expect our children to succeed if the teachers cannot even pass the subject that they need to teach? The worst performing province in this front is KwaZulu-Natal, where almost 3,000 underqualified teachers are preparing for a future generation. Honourable members, colleagues, what are you doing to hold your own provinces, your own MECs, your own premiers accountable to address this problem? Members, Deputy Minister, Deputy Chair, one of the biggest stumbling blocks in ensuring quality education to our children is SATU. Despite agreeing to several measures during the Education Labour Relations Council negotiations, the union refused to sign those agreements. Until we can hold school staff accountable for measured performance, we are unlikely to see any improvement in the service to the learners. Is it too much to ask that a teacher who gets paid to do a job must be evaluated to see if they can actually do that job? Is it too much to ask to have teachers arrive on time for school? Is it too much to ask that those teachers must actually be in class and to teach our future generation? The continuous blocking of SATU of the annual national assessment and performance contract should be something we all condemn, because it is about our children, it is about our future, the millions of learners who trust us to look after them and not to protect an underqualified few. Another example of SATU's unholy influence is the infamous Jobs for Cash scandal. How is it possible that we allow the continuous mismanagement of teaching posts and staff payments resulting in too few or absent teachers at some of the most disadvantaged schools in South Africa? Again, this should not be about protecting a few, but looking after the many, investing in the future of our children that need it the most. If we can sort this out, it will be easier to attract staff to work in rural areas, and families wouldn't need to go to extreme lengths to send the kids far away for better education. When parents send their kids to school, they are trusting government to look after their children while providing them with quality education. It is safe to assume that parents want their children to learn in an environment that is structurally and socially safe. The Department of Basic Education has failed to ensure that school staff are properly vetted by all provincial departments and the South African Council for Educators, admitting that despite it being a requirement of both criminal law and the Children's Act, teachers' names are not cross-checked with the National Register of Sex Offenders or the Child Protection Register. Learners are exposed to danger from both abusive teachers and from classmates when unsupervised at schools. Many schools have shockingly poor infrastructure, ranging from basic requirements that's lacking, such as water and lighting, to the continued prevalence of pit toilets, leading to the death of 2 learners that we know of so far. Despite this, the National Government Department slashed the school infrastructure budget by 7.2 billion in the current financial year. There's a saying, put your money where your mouth is. Therefore, we must act and budget for the safety and the future of our children. Last week, President Ramaphosa and Minister Motshekga launched the SAFE initiative. One must ask how they expect to eradicate pit latrines while slashing the infrastructure budget so severely. Or is this just a shameless grab for press out of a tragedy? We should also look one another in the eye and ask why provincial departments like Limpopo, like the Eastern Cape, are never held to account for the failure to deliver the basics of learning, such as textbooks, furniture, school transport. This is not the province's problem, as the minister has stated. This is a problem of every South African. Because if we fail the learners year in and year out, we are failing our own future. By defending or allowing such failures, we are all just as guilty. The second area that needs to be targeted to prepare children is the further education and training phase itself. This is where we can equip learners with specific usable knowledge and skills for employment, starting a business, employing other, or specializing in their chosen fields of study. Learners must have a firm grounding in the essential subjects needed to participate in this economy, such as languages and maths. Learners should be able to select the subjects most applicable for a further career. Making subjects such as history compulsory does not serve this goal. In this very House, the governing party acknowledges the need to prepare South Africa as an integral player in the 4th Industrial Revolution. Why have we not made entrepreneurship as well as information and communication technology compulsory subjects? Linked to this is easy and affordable access to the internet. This is something we as lawmakers can address. Why are we not doing that? These are innovative and forward-thinking ways of equipping our children for a competitive world where they can be part of the solution and not add to the burden we currently have to carry. FET grades, particularly in rural areas, do not have specialist teachers qualified to teach essential subjects such as maths and science. Technical subjects as a later addition to CAPS is essential to improve our technical skills base. Again, this is where our energy should go to, investing in these areas to prepare children for the workplace. Honourable Deputy Chairperson, Deputy Minister and members, it would be remiss of me not to point out another key area for intervention. The most important phase for this specialization and to enforce job-related learning is the FET phase. Yet, if we look at the number of learners who enroll for grade 10 and how many of those learners actually pass matric, we see that approximately 2/3 drop out and do not pass. That means almost 66% of our learners, we are failing to take through that critical phase to prepare them for the job market, to be entrepreneurs and to create businesses and employ others. Only 14% of those grade 10 pupils who complete matric with a bachelor's pass. That is where we are failing at the moment, and that is something where we need to come together. This is a shocking statistic, and once again, it underscores the need to improve our education as a whole, from the foundation phase, throughout all the school years, supported by the right subjects, taught by qualified teachers, in a safe environment, so that our future, our children, are equipped to compete in the labor market and even to develop the necessary skills to start up small businesses and help defeat this monster of unemployment we are currently facing as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Even when we've already agreed on what is it that must be done, I think that what we need to focus on now is what effort, as we evaluate as members of Parliament and members of NCOP, we have got this report that practitioners and implementers are giving to us from time to time. I think the best thing that we can do at this moment will be more to give them a feedback directly and be able to point out these areas that we feel that they can actually lift them up from there. Because repeating the challenge doesn't actually help us to move forward. I'm saying this because all of us who have actually set out and draw the NDP, we've identified all these matters that Honorable Ward was speaking about, the challenges that we've been having in the past and what must be done. And I must say that I believe that all of us as members who are standing here today have a report, and I don't have to repeat that government has actually indicated that we are building a strong base for early childhood development at the foundation phase. And the foundation phase teachers are being trained. Around 80,000, I think we have that report, all of us are already there. And that is a recognition that a base is very important in education. And the Department of Basic Education have actually reported, I think in both houses, that they have now embarked on a program of identifying pathways for development, the academic field, the technical field, and in the vocational areas. And these are things that we're actually having at the current moment that we need to actually respond to. And 74 schools, it's report that we're having that have piloted this year, 2018 and 2019, in selected ordinary schools, and 26 subjects are actually, I wouldn't like to go to them because of this detail we're actually having it. Mathematics and science projects have been reported to us, and the details have been given, where the difficulties are, where the challenges are, what is it that we are trying. Basic education is working with, in collaboration with the Meersetter to expose learners to the workplace, just to make them to realize that, you know, it's not enough to talk to the child about the workplace and say, these are the things that we must do. But when a child sees the workplace, it's actually, the child is able to pick up and understand what the future holds for him. Just not long, I think 2 months ago, ESCOM, I think, was actually in KZN, in Tegwini. And they were running a program for all the young students who are doing science. And I think I've got 5 that came up from my close family. That I heard that they were actually there and they were phoning me and saying, Malume, next time I want to go and do engineering and that and that. It's part of trying to actually work on this problem that we're actually facing. And I don't want to go into the things that we have said that we will do in the basic, in universities, the enrollment that is going up, the attempt that we have made to make access to be more and more so that we can have these professionals that are coming out of there to fill in these that are actually problematic for children. Special programs are actually run in terms of those people that must actually go and do some work in education. And they are running, and we need to actually support those programs, even teachers that are supposed to do some work in specialized areas. This is work that we're actually doing. ICT, it's being rolled out to schools, in different schools, to ensure that learners are actually having, accessing learning. And also educators are able to share and share views with other people. So these are, I can go into a whole lot of things because I mean, there are a lot of progress report, but we have to feel that I'm actually living in a South Africa and in a qualitative South Africa that I'm going to be a better person into the future. Teachers who are not able to read. If you can call on all the teachers here, would we not be able to see color? What is it that is actually pointing out to that? If you could talk about specialized areas, would not be seeing, you know, all those areas that where we have got people without, in those previously disadvantaged areas, are they not the ones that we're going to have problems with? Let me tell you just an experience in relation to this area. I've been a maths teacher. And the reason why I became a maths teacher is because I didn't have a teacher in my class. And if I didn't have a teacher in my class, and today I was supposed to teach a child, and how would I be able to do that? Because the focus of these areas were not actually given, those areas were not given attention. And I can tell you, if you were to be given a science teacher, the science teacher will actually be, will not even be teaching, will actually be an Afrikaans teacher that is going to teach you in Afrikaans when you don't understand the hell of what it is in Afrikaans during that time. And these are replicates of what we're trying to reverse today. And I think all of us should be able to pay attention to what we need to pay attention on what this South Africa is all about and the challenges that we're actually facing. And we face them, and I agree with you, Honorable Lord, when you say, let's come together and look at collectively this problem and we make it to belong to us as a country. And I think that we can actually find many solutions to that. And to that, I agree with you. When the economy is not performing, which is a problem, and that's the reason why we do what we do in schools and try to build as much as skills. When the economy is not performing, budgets will go down. And when they go down, they affect every item. So it's not like a deliberate thing to say, no, you know, today we're going to take money from education and we're going to give it to so and so and we'll drop education. No, or education infrastructure. When a drop in budget goes, it does have an effect in all the impact. Government try to make sure that those areas are never affected. But because there is inflation, Even if you don't change the budget, it has got a negative effect because then what we are supposed to deliver is actually becoming less. We are doing this because as an ANC-led government, we are drawing our lessons from the fact that when we draw the lessons from knowing that education is key. But what is this education? We are saying so because a number of people have actually captured what this education should be all about. George Washington Clare says, who is a botanist, of course, he says that it is the key to unlock the door of freedom, and I agree with you, because education itself is freedom. That is what Ferreira actually said. So it's Plato, who is a mathematics teacher, who strangely said, you know, once you educate somebody, you are actually bringing in love. It's the love of beauty. You are actually bringing in love of. So all those things are actually allowing us to understand what it is. Nelson Mandela says, the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world is education. And Malcolm S. agreed with him, and when he said the passport to future for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare it today. And so all of us, we do what we do because this is what is supposed to be done. There's, you know, William Yeats, who is a poet, says what education is not. He wants us not to see education as something that you use to feel pain, but a lighting to fire. And he says, the movement from darkness to light. And this is what is actually informing us as educators. I mean, as a government in South Africa. One of the things that I actually want to mention just as I close is that start from the beginning, start from the base. Early childhood development, we've got programs, all of us are aware. Secondary teacher, basic education, there's a program we've already agreed, and there's nothing new that I can actually bring in. Higher education in terms of universities and TVETs, we have put in, we debated this matter, we have looked at all the issues, and we have agreed on them, and that's why we all agreed that without making sure that there's making sure that we provide access to education through free education, we won't be able to move forward. And all of us, we are agreeing on that aspect, and programs are actually going on. We said our TVETs are not what we want, and we said we are agreeing that private sector must be in partnership with public sector in order to improve them. That is what is happening. This afternoon I was meeting with an insurance company that was looking squarely on that aspect. Tomorrow morning I'm having a breakfast of TVETs in Mpumalanga with the private sector, where we're discussing progress in terms of how far have we intervened in this program in the TVET. And these are things that are there on the ground that are assisting us to actually move forward. And I must say that there is remarkable progress that the private sector is coming into, is actually putting its effort to assist us to move forward. We do this because we know, and we do all these programs that we have made. We want to influence thought. We want to influence the future. We want to see our society developing. But society and nature and thought, they are interrelated and they influence each other. So you can't go into a settlement that is unstructured and you want to see education that is actually better. And that's why as an executive, very soon you'll have a report that is, which is what President has already started doing yesterday, to point out on the things that we must do across so that we can actually influence the living of people and ensuring that our young people are living in an environment where they will aspire to be better and be able to do what Che Guevara said they must do: defend their country, defend what has been accomplished by their parents. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Masuku. Honorable Saziwa, Eastern Cape Chairperson Portfolio Committee.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the NSOP, let me acknowledge the already established protocol of this House. And it is a privilege for me to represent the Eastern Cape in this important debate that takes place during a month that we acknowledge the role women played in our struggle for freedom in our country against one of the evil government systems in the world. Eastern Cape understands this debate as one of the fundamental interventions so as to create an opportunity to assess whether our system of education fulfills the priority needs of present and future generations to come. Eastern Cape Deputy Chairperson, Department of Education, has an overall budget of 34.7 billion rands. And out of that, 7.8 million rands has been allocated to early childhood development. Out of that, 5.3 million rands has been used for the conversion of qualified ECD practitioners to post-level 1 educators. Further, 1,186 pre-grade R educators have been trained on national curriculum framework, and further bursaries have been set aside for ECD practitioners to acquire NQF level qualification. All these attempts, Chairperson, serve as an early intervention in ensuring that children are prepared for the areas of interest. The province has also distributed learner support material in the form of numeracy, literacy, construction, fantasy, outdoor kits, and training has been done to equip those practitioners to assist our learners. Because it's our view that if you don't catch them young, by the time they get to both the GT band as well as to the FT band, they shall have made wrong choices in terms of their career paths. Further, Chairperson, the department has awarded bursaries to 600 children in our schools to pursue B.Ed in Maths and Science, which is a 4-year program with guaranteed appointment and placement upon completion. This is funded through the Skills Development Fund, and currently 300 of these are doing their second year and 300 are doing their first year. Further, the following programs are targeting unemployed youth. 120 unemployed youth have been placed on construction leadership. These, upon completion, will be placed in schools as a means of creating new ventures. 50 ICT learners have been also assisted in order to assist schools in technical support. 50 social workers were placed in special schools from the unemployed youth. 169 interns for office administration, and all of the above have been done through partnership with the ETDB. This is just a small intervention that the Department of Education is trying to make in assisting our children in order for them to access job market, but most importantly, Our view as the Eastern Cape is that to create mechanisms of equipping our children to be job makers, in other words, our view is that what is important is to create mechanisms of equipping our children to be job makers than to be job seekers. That is why we call upon all in our country to ensure that a diverse set of private, workplace, and community-based providers should be supported to offer targeted workplace training as well as youth development programs. We call upon all in our country to ensure that strong regulatory bodies are established to analyze demand, ensure a sustainable range of courses is available, and monitoring quality. That SETAs should play a more effective role in the production of skills that are required to meet the immediate needs of the employer. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, towards our conclusion, and honorable members of this august House, it is important to note that for all of the above to be realized, we must ensure that access to public schools is not sacrilегally denied through use of language policies and fee structures by school government bodies. Because more often than not, due to the use of language policy, our learners cannot access such schools. Due to high fee structures, our learners cannot access those schools. Deputy Chairperson, the World Economic Forum recently highlighted in its 2016 Future of Jobs report that the skills most needed in the workplace by 2020 will include complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, emotional intelligence, judgment, and decision making, and negotiating amongst others. That is why we call upon all of us to support the three approach in delivering basic education to our learners. That is academic, vocational, technical, and career pathways, so as to equip our children with lifelong learning that would enable them to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. Frantz Fanon, Chairperson, in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, once said, I quote, "Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it in relative obscurity," close quote. This places a duty upon all of us to lend a hand in creating a brighter future for our children than to want to use failures as a political football. Let us be part of the Tumamina campaign. We cannot afford to go back to the painful history of band education era of 1953. Our children must not be victims of animosities of the past, and we must refuse to go back there by throwing away all the animosity of the past to the world of oblivion. Chairperson, it's important for us to take heed by one of the calls that was made by our revered Bishop Tutu. When people argue against you, he once said, I quote, "People must learn not to raise their voices, but to improve the arguments." I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Chabangu, can you continue the debate?
Deputy Chair, NCOP, members present, 2 observers, the House at large, or 3 observers, the House at large.
So you can't read also.
Debate for today is state of education in South African schools. Today's debate is about the state of education in South African school, focusing on the skills to equip South African children for the labor market. But the reality is that the South African public education system is setting up the children of our country for failure in the job market and will result in the country not having the necessary skills to grow and develop the economy. Across the world and our continent, education systems are preparing children for the jobs of the 21st century, but here in South Africa, we are not even able to prepare our children for the job of the 20th century. The most basic form of education is the ability to read and write. And nearly every job in the world, skilled or unskilled, requires employees to be able to read, write, and comprehend basic education. These skills are taught at a primary level and are continuously developed. So how do South African children perform in reading and writing? A study released last year found that close to 80% of grade 4 pupils in this country cannot read with full understanding. How is the department going to teach our children maths, science, history, geography, and economics when it cannot even teach them how to read? Maths and science, along with critical thinking, have always been central to the modern education and the modern world. So many of the innovations born in the 20th century were a product of people properly trained and skilled in maths, science, and critical thinking. But in the 21st century, IT and the computer is skilled. It requires continue to grow in importance and adjust in important reading, writing, maths, and science. Throughout the developed and also large parts of South Africa, the developed world computer and information technology skills have become the central of the education system as they prepare the youth of their countries for future. In Russia, but more especially in China, massive investment is equipping youth people with IT skills is bearing the fruits. As China once considered a country which produced cheap counterfeit technology, is now producing some of the most advanced and sophisticated forms of technology, particularly where it comes to artificial intelligence and hardware and software. This did not happen by chance, but was a result of concentrated effort by the Chinese government to ensure that IT skills form part of the education that all children receive. From a very early age, children at school across China are exposed to computers and are taught how to use them and the software. We could be doing the same, but the Department of Education has no capacity and is being mismanaged by corrupt officials. It is because of these officials that we have over 11,000 primary schools without computers at the present moment. If so many of our children do not see a computer until they are in high school or even worse, university level, we will never be able to prepare our youth for the job market because basic computer literacy is a must in the world we live in today. But how can one even worry about children not having access to computer when there are still schools in this country that have no toilets or schools that go without water and electricity for weeks ends?
Just take a seat. Let me recognize the Honorable Chief Whip. On what point are you rising?
It's on a point of order, Chair. The honorable member, as you normally caution in the House, we should be mindful of the language that we use. To make a statement that the Department of Education in the country is managed by corrupt officials is unfounded.
Honorable member, I did hear that. Now, in that debate, you can't therefore allege or make an allegation, a statement of fact. Because if you say corrupt, no, I was waiting for members to stand up. I heard him. Corrupt officials. Whereas there's no record from any court of law that somebody has been found guilty of corruption. Therefore, honorable member, can you just withdraw that statement or rephrase? Or take your seat. Take your seat. I'm busy with an order here. No, take your seat. No, take your seat. You know that, you know it very well. Honorable member, you should know better. You should know better that whilst the presiding officer is giving a report, you can't be standing up and jumping on my throat. No, you are wrong. You are wrong. Honorable member, I don't even have to consult Hansard. I heard that. Can you please withdraw by alleging that officials of the Department of Education are corrupt?
We could be doing the same, but the Department of Education has no capacity and is being mismanaged by unqualified officials.
No. Now you have changed your statement.
The Minister of Basic...
Honorable Chabangu, earlier on you didn't say unqualified, you said corrupt.
Yeah, but
And
you said I must rephrase it.
Honorable Chabangu, I ordered you to withdraw the reference of officials of the Department of Education as corrupt.
Withdrawn for the sake of
withdraw,
progress.
Withdraw.
For
Withdraw.
the sake of progress.
Withdraw, honorable member.
I'm withdrawing.
Thank you very much.
The Minister of Basic Education and the department do not realize the irreversible damage they are doing to our country.
What point of order are you raising, honorable member? Can you take your seat, honorable?
Did you just say I jumped on you? Did you just say I must stop jumping on you?
Figure of speech on my throat.
Withdraw.
No, you must withdraw that
Throat.
because from here to there, jumping
Throat.
there,
Throat.
these things will hurt
Throat.
me. Huh?
Throat.
No.
That's
So you
what
are,
I said.
you are changing your statement again, and Honorable Chabangu is not allowed to change his statement.
For your,
I'm challenging you to withdraw.
I'm
Challenging you to withdraw. But because I do not want to disturb my honorable member on the podium,
For the purpose of
and for the
your-
sake of peace, I'm going to leave it.
for
But
the purpose of your
you must
peace.
withdraw, even if it's on Sunday or when. But you must know that you must withdraw. Thank you.
No. This is a serious matter. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, this is a serious matter. The member alleges that. No, it's a serious matter. She alleges that I said she jumped on me. And I know what I said. Okay? No. I know what I said. Now, for the purpose of order, for the purpose of the records of this, I will rule that we consult Hansard and then come back to this house with Hansard to quote exactly what I said, because I know I did not say she jumped on me. All right. Now, in the next sitting of the house, I will provide you with the records of Hansard. Thank you very much. Continue the debate, Honorable Chabangu.
Protection from Northwest Chairperson. Am I protected?
Yes, you are.
The Minister of Basic Education and the department do not realize the irreversible damage they are doing to our country. We are falling behind, and if nothing is done soon, it will be nearly impossible to catch up. This government continues to talk about the fourth industrial revolution, but the foundation of our participation in the fourth industrial revolution is based on the skill we have available. This department is not able to equip our children for the jobs of the fourth industrial revolution. It is said in English, faith divorced from deeds is lifeless as a corpse. It has failed our children, and by failing children, it is destroying our future. Therefore, as EFF, we say, the state of education in South African school is terrible, and it needs to be changed for the betterment of our children. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister, honorable members of the NCOP, guests, special delegates from the provinces. I thank this opportunity to make a contribution in this very important debate on a motion by Honorable Lond, which I do want to agree that the concerns that he's raising are genuine. Nonetheless, there is a need to acknowledge what the Department of Basic Education as well as higher education has done. It's not true to paint a picture that creates a perception that nothing has been done to equip our children, our students with the skill that they would require to be absorbed in the world of work or start their own small businesses. Since the inception of the democratic dispensation, South Africa has had a revolutionary and developmental education system, which is premised on ensuring that education is used as a powerful empowerment tool as well as a pillar for our economy. The Ready to Govern document of the African National Congress envisages a South Africa where all people are empowered through education and training for active involvement as citizens in the democratic processes as well as workers in the economy of the country. I wish to go on as to say for them also to be beneficiaries and employers in the economic landscape. President Cyril Ramaphosa in SONA of 2018 said, and I quote, "Our prosperity as a nation depends on our ability to take full advantage of rapid technological change. We need to urgently develop our capabilities in the areas of science, technology, and innovation," close quotation. Maybe just to remind the honorable members on a few things that the Department of Basic Education in particular has done to address the issues that Honorable Lond is raising. Firstly, we've created a system whereby the ECD phase of our education system as a foundation phase has been strengthened. The Department of Basic Education, in collaboration with the Department of Social Development, has seen to it that the teachers or the practitioners at that level, the qualifications are raised to level 4. All along the ECD centers, we all know, have been run by omama nje basemakhaya, ogogo bezingane that are not particularly trained. But today, the Department of Education has made it a point that all teachers that are handling the toddlers at that level at least have got a level 4 qualification. That is an achievement. The Department of Basic Education has also invested in the infrastructure. You find that the ECD classrooms are now attached to the primary schools. It is the very same department that has actually put in place the subsidy for the toddlers. Before 1994, the issue of ECD was not an issue of government. It was an issue of NGOs, private organizations, but ever since 1994, teaching and learning at the level of ECD has been formalized, and there is a subsidy allocation that has been made formally to ensure that children eat and children
have got teaching aides and teachers get the stipend for ECD. That is an achievement that we need to acknowledge if we are fair to the department. It is true indeed that we are not doing that much of work insofar as skilling is concerned. Those of us who did go through the, Bantu education during our times, you'll remember that at primary school level already, you did your gardening, you did your craft work, which was actually involving the creation or ukwakha izinto ezinjengezinkamba, izinkezo, imikhonto, zonke lezo zinto, ukuthunga, zonke lezo zinto, you'd actually choose as a learner where your strength is. If you want to create a doll, then it's a doll. If you want to do a grass mat, it's a grass mat. That was skilling. And it started at primary school level and it went on and on. We had high schools that were called technical high schools that offered home economics, offered carpentry, and all those skilling subjects, with a view to ensuring that students, as they progress, they at least have a skill that they can survive on. I think the introduction of the three-stream model that the Honorable Deputy Minister spoke about earlier on seeks to actually bring that back to ensure that students do not have to wait until they've completed a high school before they've got a skill. They can acquire the skills as they go through the high school education and then further strengthen their skills as they enter the TVET system of education. In order to ensure that we are skilling our people to be ready for participation in the economic landscape, the National Development Plan has set a target of 30,000 artisans per annum by 2030. As of now, where we sit, there has been a steady growth. In 2014-15, we have been able to produce as a country 14,389 artisans per annum. According to the records, in 2016-17, we've been able to produce 21,188 artisans. Those are the people that are equipped with scarce skill. They can be absorbed by the industry, or they can be able to start their own small businesses if they are assisted with the capital that they would need to start their businesses. If we're to look at the provincial
member,
picture...
your time is expired.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Makwebo, continue the debate.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Deputy Minister, members and fellow South Africans. Albert Einstein once said, I quote, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." Close quote. Deputy Chairperson, our children are geniuses like everyone else and are no less intelligent than other children in this world. Our children are the future and have gifts and talents like their counterparts all over the world. But something is terribly wrong in our education system. Our children need an education system that prepares them not just for jobs, but to create jobs and wealth. They need an education system that prepares them to create value by starting up their own small businesses. It is those small businesses that become the backbone of our economy. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the world is standing on the brink of the fourth industrial revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, the way we work, and relate to one another. This industrial revolution is evolving exponentially rather than at a moderate pace. Moreover, it is disrupting almost every industry in the world. As we prepare for this fourth industrial revolution, Honorable Chairperson, our children desperately need to understand and excel in mathematics, science, and technology. But guess what? And sadly so, this is not the case. In 2015, South African maths and science education has been shown to be amongst the worst in the world. It is the second last according to the largest ever global school rankings. A report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development put our country behind Ghana, whilst Asian countries excelled, claiming the top 5 positions. OECD findings are based on the score test for the 15-year-olds from 76 countries. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, out of 76 countries, Singapore was ranked number 1, and South Africa, guess what, number 75. In their Global Information Technology Report in April 2015, the World Economic Forum ranked South Africa last in the quality of mathematics and science education. As if this is not enough, South Africa finished close to last. It ranked 139 out of 143 countries when looking at the overall quality of the education system. The authors of this report sent out a standing warning to countries at the bottom of the ranking and made the following remark, I quote, "There is no shortcut to improved learning outcomes in the post-2015 world economy, where knowledge and skills have become the global currency and key to better jobs and better lives." Honorable Chairperson, the report further noted that the quality of schooling in our country is a powerful indicator of wealth that countries will produce in the long run. With this said, and tragic state of poor quality of schooling and education in our country, I beg to ask this question: how will our children create wealth for this country and sustain themselves and their children when we are all dead? What kind of a country are we going to leave behind for our children? How will they be able to live and face the fourth industrial revolution when we are not sufficiently equipping them? These are the questions you must honestly answer. The economic model will need innovative people. The fourth industrial revolution scholars have projected that in 2020, just around the corner, guess what? 5 million jobs will be lost due to technological advancements. Robotics and artificial intelligence are at the heart of this revolution, and our children must be prepared and be equipped to face the world that is coming to their faces. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, members, fellow South Africans, every child is a genius. We just need to get our education system right to unlock their potential. We have no time to waste anymore. We have no day to spare, and we can never defer this matter anymore because our children are already paying the price because of our system that has failed them and left them unemployed. 2018 labor surveys have indicated that youth unemployment for ages between 15 and 34 is sitting more than at 50%, resulting in 6.1 million unemployed youth in our country. Some of the young people are so discouraged with the labor market and have given up looking for jobs. Graduates of TVET colleges still need jobs because they don't have experience, and the courses that have been given, they seem to be below the market value. This is a ticking time bomb. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, honorable members, fellow South Africans, all is not gloom and doom. The DA has a plan. Our education policy is focused on instilling quality, accountability, and leadership into the system. In national government, we'll have a sustained, focused, and systematic approach to improving education. Education budgets, policies, and operational decisions will be made consistently, be subjected to a simple litmus test of whether each will improve educational value in South African classrooms. We will do away with the bad ANC policies like progression of learners. This policy is killing our children. As the DA, we will work with provincial departments to ensure that every child has an opportunity to learn in a safe and supportive environment. Unlike what it is now under the ANC government that spends 2.6 billion on VIP protection for ministers who live in 9 million rand houses, each with a bright area costing 2 million rands, while our children are learning in mud schools with no electricity and using pit toilets. This money could be used to buy or to build 500 schools at 5...
Honorable Makweo, can you take your seat, please? On what point are you rising? Can you take your seat?
Chair, this is abuse. I mean, We are always
On
called
what point are you
to
raising,
be
Honorable
drowning
Member?
speakers, but today it's a speaker himself who's drowning us.
No, that's
So,
not a point of
Can you
order,
please, Chairperson, ask the honorable member to debate
No,
properly,
honorable
man?
member,
You know, we don't have problems with our
no.
ears here. I don't remember anyone
No,
raising
honorable member,
a
can you
point
take your
where
seat?
they complained about having a problem.
Can you take your seat, please? It's not a point. That's not a point of order. Can you continue, honorable member?
Honorable Chairperson, the DA has got a plan. It will ensure that every child has an opportunity to learn in a safe and supportive environment, unlike what is now under the ANC government that spends 2.6 billion on VIP protection for ministers who live in 9 million rand houses with a Braai area costing 2 million rand, while our children are living in mud schools with no electricity and using pit toilets. This money could be used and be directed to good use. 500 state-of-the-art schools at 5 million rand each could be built with 2.6 billion. Shame on you, ANC. Our children, as the DA, will ensure that they emerge from schools having mastered the fundamentals of literacy and numeracy levels at international benchmark levels. We will establish as the DA an enabling environment for educational excellence, improve school management and teacher quality, promote accountability through appropriate assessment of academic performances, align education outcomes with the world by regularly reviewing the curriculum to ensure that it equips learners for participation in a competitive global knowledge economy. Again, this is something the ANC doesn't understand. Honorable Chairperson, in conclusion,
Honorable member, unfortunately, your time has expired.
I want to say the DA is ready to govern. We don't need to change government,
Honorable member, your time
but
has
we need to change the
expired.
government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister, young people in South Africa have long suffered the social exclusion in the mainstream of life. This has happened both in their schooling life and in the aftermath of their school years. It is specifically the black young South Africans who have been perpetually subjected to this sordid state of affairs. During the apartheid era, black youth in South Africa were excluded from quality education. This was due to a variety of reasons, including limited syllabi, which was biased against black children acquiring any form of quality education, poorly resourced schools in both infrastructure and personnel, lack of adequate and proper funding, poor support from the system, to mention but a few issues. This caused a relative deprivation amongst the youth, the effects of which are still evident to this day. In the post-apartheid era, sadly during a democratic dispensation, young people in South Africa are held hostage to a stuttering education system that hardly produces any quality, especially to the previously disadvantaged. The system has leapfrogged from OBE to NCS, NCS to revised NCS, which introduced ANA, that was again later abandoned, to CAPS, and of late to what is now called Jigimfundo. There is obviously no certainty of where the authorities are taking the country to. Indeed, policy direction is important in delivering educational programs towards self-employment and entrepreneurship as a key avenue to overcome youth joblessness. Obviously, an ever-changing policy, like is the case with South Africa, is not likely to produce the outcomes that are strong enough to overcome these many labor market challenges of the global village. It has been repeatedly stated that of the total number of children that enter the system in grade 1, 2/3 of them will make it in record time to grade 12 in South Africa. And of those who write grade 12, only about 30% will qualify to go to university. Actually, to be precise, in 2017, bachelor passes were 28.7%. As a matter of fact, mathematics and science are key subjects for careers to technical skilling. As a matter of fact, again, most black pupils who pass mathematics and science well enough to enter university courses in the natural sciences, engineering, medicine and health sciences, commerce, all still come from the former Model C schools. The irony of this situation is that those individuals who have a good education come from a privileged background and don't need to be entrepreneurs to make a living. And therefore, in order to close this gap of social exclusion caused by high unemployment rate and unemployability of our youth, there needs to be a strong link between our education system on the one hand and the strategy to promote employment and entrepreneurship and absorption into the labor market on the other hand. This is the fundamental principle that will enhance the link and keep youth in touch with the labor market and minimize joblessness. This view has been backed by strong advocacy in some quarters for active policies to encourage firms to take on interns and train on the job, including the public sector internships. Of late, another stronger lobby voice is for the scrapping of experience requirements as a condition for job entries. Links need to be created in South Africa between educational institutions and the industry and the labor market so that young people can explore the opportunities for the job market and self-employment through practical and direct involvement in local business and on-the-job experiences. It is a pity that to date, thousands of young people who have completed their studies at TVET colleges still remain uncertificated because of lack of these opportunities. Research has further indicated that passion for starting up a small business has to be driven by vision in order for the business to be sustainable. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor reports that a small percentage of startup SMMEs can expect to create 20 jobs in their first 5 years of business. The reason for this is that SMME in South Africa is driven by necessity or the absence of other viable sources of income rather than being driven by vision. Not many co-ops and SMMEs last up to 5 years, and very few develop into high-growth firms, if any. Small businesses initiatives that are forced to entrepreneurship of necessity are not likely to be successful. This is social exclusion in practice, which starts with education and ends up in the labor market world. It is further perpetuated by SMME policy in that support for small business and SMME is mainly at startup only, whereas an approach of continued support is more appropriate in cases where the aim is to counter unemployment and turn unemployed individuals into successful small business practitioners. The NCOP practically experienced this during the taking parliament to the people in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Motara.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Honorable members, Deputy Minister. The futurist Thomas Frey predicted the following will be new job titles that will exist before 2030. Alternative currency bankers, seed capitalists, global system architects, locationists, waste data managers, urban agriculturalists, 3D printing engineers, book-to-app converters, social education specialists, privacy managers, nanomedics, and elevated tube transport engineers, to mention but a few. In 1994 ANC policy framework for education and training, we noted that the education and training system under the ANC government must be developed in an integrated way in order to develop an education and training system which is characterized by the learning of a broad range of knowledge, skills, and competencies. In order for education and training to contribute significantly to development, socially and economically, individuals have to be empowered to partake actively in society in democratic processes as well as in the economy. This means that the education and training system had to address, amongst other things, the need to continually upgrade skills in line with the rapidly changing and dynamic national and international economy. At our 54th National Conference, we noted that the fourth industrial revolution is a focus of attention, as it contains within its possibilities of disrupting current economic and social structures profoundly over the next 20 years. The task for South Africa, therefore, is to plan effectively, position itself optimally, and engage proactively with these rapidly evolving technologies. It further noted and resolved that all children of South Africa must get equal opportunities in terms of infrastructure in all schools, if we are to maximize the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. There has to be a linkage between education and the labor market. Stats SA in 2017 quoted that the highest level of poverty is amongst individuals with the lowest level of education, whereas the lowest poverty level is amongst those with higher education. And as you quite rightly pointed out, Deputy Minister, that this in South Africa has got a color perspective. The move towards a knowledge economy places different labor force, higher upskilled education levels, lifelong learning regardless of employment type or previous education. This includes teachers, decision-making and problem-solving skills, which are not task-specific, technological and ICT skills, and inter as well as intra-personal skills, such as communication. The low economic growth rates leading to poor employment growth, the employment growth is not sufficient for the large numbers of youth coming to the labor market for the first time. Sectors where people work and the types of jobs are changing. The absence of low-wage jobs in the manufacturing sector, structural shifts towards a service economy, and dependence on a high-skilled financial services sector. There is currently a structural mismatch between labor demand and supply, and this is what we need to address. The economy and the labor market shows a demand for high-skilled workers, but there is a surplus of low-skilled workers. International experience and research shows us that the trends in for instance, the trends in international mathematics and science study showed us an international comparative study designed to measure trends in mathematics and science achievements at the 4th and 8th grades, as well as to collect information about educational contexts, such as student schools, teachers, and homes that may be related to student achievement. In 2015, the United States 4th graders' average score in mathematics and science was 539, which was higher than the average scores of students in 34 education systems and lower than the average scores of students in 10 education systems. Singapore had the highest across the maths and science field, followed by Hong Kong, Korea, and China, and their labor market depicts this outcome. The World Bank recently released its South Africa Economic Update and suggests that greater research and development efforts are likely to create more jobs rather than shed jobs in net terms. The resilience of the South African high-tech manufacturing sector at a time when lower-tech manufacturing sectors are shedding jobs is seen as supportive of this view. This is according to the World Bank in 2017. However, the nature of the labor required is likely to be more skill-intensive, which could exacerbate the structural unemployment due to skills mismatch prevalent in South Africa. And again, this is what we have to address, the skills mismatch. The German Academy of Science and Technology recently surveyed SMEs to establish their skills requirement and make recommendations for the 4th Industrial Revolution. The findings and recommendations include, amongst others, workplace training, which is what you spoke about, Deputy Minister. The 4th Industrial Revolution is making new digital professional development formats that allow training content to be precisely tailored to the knowledge and needs of employees available. SMEs should receive special support to help them develop the skills needed for the 4th Industrial Revolution to prevent a growing digital divide between large and small companies. And schools should include media and digitalization skills to help equip students for the 4th Industrial Revolution. On the brink of this industrial revolution, the South African industry faces an extra challenge recently highlighted by the World Bank, namely that the shortage of a highly skilled labor force severely limits innovation. Increasing the supply of skilled labor will take time and will require strengthened primary and secondary education, as well as adult education, vocational training, entrepreneurship programs. The government's current focus on radical economic transformation and inclusive growth should not be excluded from policy discussions around the 4th Industrial Revolution. The rapid pace of technology development and adoption in society may marginalize those that cannot afford new technology further. This quandary should be addressed by creating mechanisms that ensure equitable access to, or at a minimum, benefit from new technologies, as well as training information about educational contexts, as well as upskilling to ensure that both the poor and lower income groups are not marginalized further by rapid technological disruptions. The focus here, therefore, remains on progressively realizing the provision of quality basic higher education and training in South Africa. This is an imperative, as education is an apex priority of the ANC and government, which is a critical component of building a democracy with social content, as well as contributing to the developmental state and the national democratic society that the ANC is advancing the country towards. In the 2018 State of the Nation address, the President highlighted the need for urgency in dealing with the high youth unemployment rate. The education system thus needs to play a crucial role in equipping learners for the world of work and for positions in areas of scarce skills. Critical to this is the need to respond to the ever-changing demands of an information-driven economy. It is safe to say, without fear of contradiction, that the ANC-led government is adequately positioning itself to respond to this and is implementing interdepartmental programs and policies to respond to the fourth industrial revolution. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Michel.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Deputy Minister, colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take part in what I deem a very important debate today. So thank you to the sponsor as well. But before I get to my actual speech, I think in light of what has been said about the report released about the reading or the literacy rates of grade 4 learners, I think it's imperative and important for me to highlight that in the Western Cape, leading, once again, 45% are able to read and write in grade 4, with Gauteng at 31% and Limpopo at a shocking 9.2%. So I think it's a minister, deputy minister, it's a great concern for all South Africans. But Honourable Chair, education remains pivotal to ensure that millions of South Africans have any chance of escaping poverty. As public representatives, we are blessed with a wonderful opportunity to engage with citizens across the country. It is through our engagements and lived experiences that we are able to understand the issues which are affecting the people of South Africa, so that we as a government can find the necessary solutions to address respective issues. Honourable Deputy Chair, building a solid educational foundation should not be taken lightly. With the right foundation in place, the possibility of our children becoming not only educated citizens, but proactive change agents in their adulthood is far more likely. Given the importance of building a conducive foundation, we need a government that is efficient, caring, and responsive to the educational needs of our youth. The key to equipping our children with the necessary skills to compete in the labour market and in business lies in the focus on quality basic education. This is the logic behind the Western Cape Education Department's emphasis on early childhood development, support, maintaining quality standards and e-learning in order to ultimately ensure our youth can live a life they value. Honourable Deputy Chair, neurological research shows that the early years of a child play a key role in a child's cognitive development. It is in this regard that our government has invested heavily in the early childhood development. In the 2016-2017 budget year, the DA-led Western Cape government set aside an amount of 56 million rand for grade R pupils, with 15 million rand set aside to build 108 new classrooms. In addition, our government provided a grant for the training of 120 students from technical and vocational education and training colleges as assistants to ECD practitioners and grade R teachers to provide support and ensure that our learners receive the best education and care possible. Honourable Deputy Chair, as the Western Cape government, we place providing equal opportunities with redress for our learners at the heart of all our education projects, ensuring that no learner is left behind. That is why the number of learners attending no-fee schools has increased by 58% in the last 5 years. 580 learners to be exact. As the caring government that we are, 92% of our provincial education budget is focused on uplifting learners from our poorest and ruralist communities through the provision of textbooks, stationery, learner transport, and feeding schemes. Honourable Deputy Chair, a great deal of work done by our government is focused on supporting our neediest learners. Through various initiatives, such as the introduction of collaboration schools in our poorer communities, we've put a great deal of emphasis on providing quality education. And the Western Cape Department of Education has been the driving force behind this effort. Our department had worked to culminate the province and achieving the highest retention rate for grade 10 to 12, the highest in the country. Put in simple terms, Mr. Deputy Chair, this means that the Western Cape has far fewer dropouts than any other province in this country. It is perhaps no surprise why we also lead the country with the best mathematics results. Since the DA took over, Mr. Deputy Chair, in 2009 in the Western Cape, the pass rate for matric in quintile 1 schools was 57.5%. In 2017, it was recorded as 73.8%. Pass rate increases of 12.9 percentage points. In quintile 2, at 14.8 percentage points, and in quintile 3, that was also recorded as 14.8%. This is most significant in quintile 1, and I'll tell you now why. Because bachelor's passes in quintiles 1 to 3 has more than doubled under the DA-led Western Cape government. The bachelor's pass rates went up from 8.7% to 22.3%, Mr. Deputy Chair. This means that close to 25% of our learners are earning a bachelor pass in schools located in the poorest of the poor communities in this province. Honourable Deputy Chair, in preparing the next generation of young professionals and entrepreneurs, the DA Western Cape is miles ahead of other provinces. In efforts to support our learners, not only in the classrooms, but outside the classroom environment too over the years, our government has prioritized quality after-school programs as a game changer across this province. In the Premier's State of the Province address, and I quote, "The number of learners engaged in regular and consistent after-school programming has increased to over 72,000, a 264% increase since 2014. This clearly sets the DA-led Western Cape apart from the incapable governments of the ANC. Research shows that extracurricular activities and after-school programs contribute to learners developing stronger minds and academic rigors such as in-depth reading and complex problem solving. It also helps to create constructive opportunities of our young people in order to prevent them from becoming involved in gangsterism and other antisocial activities. The South African education system, Mr. Deputy Chair, will fail young people if it doesn't cater and adapt for the modern needs of the market in light of the fourth industrial revolution in which they are expected to thrive. In this digital era, it is important that we consistently find new ways to catch up and to ensure the knowledge imparted to our children is relevant and useful so far to prepare them for a life after school. In this regard, the Western Cape is again leading by example. We have an e-learning game changer that has introduced a technological advanced dynamic to the education in the Western Cape. It mitigates the effects of increasing learner numbers in the province and also narrows the gaps between schools that are more resourced to those that are poorer. We are achieving this by enhancing the teaching and learning experience of Western Cape learners, predominantly in mathematics and languages, through the use of technology and improved digital infrastructure at our schools. Honourable Deputy Chair, the apprenticeship game changer, which was set with a target, we don't just speak about programs, with a target of 11,300 to get into the labour market by 2019, has been adopted by the Western Cape government. That will equip and align learners with the required skills needed to thrive in the South African economy. The Western Cape is focusing on improving the number of people passing maths at 50% or above to promote artisanships, which will in turn significantly reduce the unemployment rate. The Western Cape is also committed to improving...
Member, just take a seat. Honourable Louis, on what point are you rising?
Chairperson, I wanted to check. I'm like lost. The speaker is speaking as if it's another country somewhere. So I wanted to ask if you could take a question.
Are you prepared to take a question, Honourable Michel?
I've got 18 seconds left.
No, he's not prepared to take a question.
Thank
No,
you.
Honourable
Pangbrook.
I'll make a ruling. He's not prepared to take a question. can continue, Honorable Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. It will feel like a different country because you will feel the DA difference once you come to the Western Cape. When it comes to education in South Africa, the Western Cape story provides a synopsis of how education ought to be directed, Mr. Deputy Chair. The Western Cape's modern and holistic approach to education had ensured that those at the lowest end of society receive an equally decent education
Honorable
as their
Michelle,
wealthier
your time has
counterparts.
expired.
Honorable Deputy Chair, in conclusion, if I may.
Your time has expired, Honorable Member. Honorable members, may I just bring something to your attention? Don't think that I'm rude. Members are raising. Do you know you want to raise a point of order? But if you raise your hand, I won't recognize you. Because I don't know, are you calling a service officer or you seek the attention of the service officer? Be on your feet so that I recognize you. Please. Honorable Hatting.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. The challenges of a managed education transformation process are evident in our everyday lives. These challenges have largely been attributed to the historical legacy of apartheid. Even though there has been significant progress towards the creation of a non-racial, democratic, and non-sexist post-apartheid system, we should not lose sight of the fact that some of the challenges that we see in our schools are a direct result, Honorable Zwane, of weak political leadership and poor management of the processes aimed at improving of our public school system. I've listened, Honorable Deputy Chair, to every speaker here, and nobody has said that nothing is being done. Nobody said that. You said it. The reality is that what is being done is ineffective, too little, too late, and with very little impact, and certainly not with the output envisaged by the massive budgets. The Department of Basic Education's new format of reporting, known as an inclusive basket of criteria, shows the performance of each provincial education department. This is a very useful tool to identify strengths and weaknesses in our education system. This is a weighted measure containing pass rate, maths and science passes, bachelor passes, distinctions, math participation rate, and secondary school throughput rate or dropout. Now, Honourable Chair, Honourable Mitchell has stated, and this Department of Education tool also confirms, the Western Cape remains the top achieving province in the country according to the department. It is notable that the Free State has the lowest throughput rate, raising further questions about the alleged practice of gatekeeping in the province, where learners are being held back to inflate the pass rate.
Honorable Hatting, can you take a seat? Honorable Zana, on what point are you rising?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if Honorable Hatton can take a question.
Are you prepared to take a question, Honorable Hatton?
We sit every day in the committee. She can ask me there. I won't take it here from her.
Are you prepared to take a question? That is the question.
I'll take it in the committee, not here, Chair.
Are you prepared to take a question?
No, not here, in the committee.
You see, I'm going to ask you again. Are you prepared to take a question?
I will repeat again, no, not here. No, I won't take a question.
Thank you very much.
It's the same.
He is not prepared to take a question.
Honourable Chair, the Minister has all the tools. She's been hamstrung by SATU, but she's got the tools to take cognizance of the catastrophic dropout rate. We cannot claim to have a system on the rise if only 37% of the 2015's grade 10s passed matric last year. Let's get to infrastructure, it was mentioned. The large number of learners whose dignity is compromised daily by using pit toilets reflects broader infrastructure challenges experienced by teachers, learners and parents in our public school system. It's prevalent everywhere in our rural schools. Now, the DBE stated the current figures as follows. There are 3,898 schools with pit toilets only, and the Eastern Cape. represent 41% with 1,998 schools. I would like to ask the chairperson of the Eastern Cape Finance Committee, what happened to the 450 million of city funds and infrastructure funds when you have 41% of a country spit to less? And what's more, in addition, he ran away. In addition, another 3,040 schools had proper sanitation provided. Delivery, that's fine. But the ANC government doesn't know how to fill those pit toilets at the 3,040 schools. It's open for children to fall in. If a government cannot fill a pit toilet, how can they provide the education promised here by Honorable Mutara? I would like to see that. Well, what compounds these infrastructure challenges is the lack of capacity to provide resources such as textbooks for maths and science teachers and laboratory equipment. And these are required for the future that was portrayed here by Honorable Mutara in a very good speech. Well, however, and this is typical of the ANC, promises, budgets, etc., but she never arrived at the point to say, how will it be achieved? Because there is simply no ANC plan to really deliver. All talk, very little. You go to KZN and you'll see. It becomes essential for our current school system to empower learners as individuals, one may argue, and to advance change management skills. Coupled with the capacity to manage change, our school system must equip learners with universal values of respect for the other as embodied in our South African Ubuntu way of life. In these values that will enable our learners to manage complex interpersonal and multicultural global relationships which have to come to characterize the current knowledge-driven global economy. It is precisely for these reasons that we as the Democratic Alliance, we seek to achieve the following in our education systems. That our children emerge from school having mastered the fundamentals of literacy, which is acutely lacking, as well as numeracy at an international benchmark level, where the education having emphasized information literacy to prepare them for the participation in the global economy. And that South African learners are nurtured to become well-rounded citizens who have the discipline, work ethic, and courage to use their skills and talent to pursue their dreams in a free world. And Honorable Deputy Chair, this can only be achieved in an education system as envisaged and embodied by the policies and vision, not of the ANC, but of the DA. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ntebe. Continue the debate.
Thank you, Chair, honorable members, special delegates. For the better part of the debate, Chair, this was a very good debate because the majority of the speakers were raising issues without becoming emotional and raising issues that are at the cardinal point of what we seek to do as a society. Honorable Lund started very good and raised that historical facts, systematic challenges and injustices of the past are still impeding on the progress that we want to record. And it's a reality. If you look at affluent areas, we find better infrastructure in terms of your schools, in terms of issues that young kids when they start at foundation schools are exposed to, as opposed to those who are in the peripheries in your peripheral areas, in your local areas, villages, and that. And those are imbalances that we need to fix for us to be able to arrive where we want to go. He also raised the issue of quality learning as a building up to tertiary level. It's a good point. Start when they are fresh. Make sure that the curriculum feeds what the children wants to do, feed into what the nation wants to achieve, so that when we move, at least we have a better foundation for our kids. But I disagree with Honorable Lund when he raised an issue that SADU is impeding on progress that we want to record. You see, the problem with liberal politics is that you think that you don't know that workers' rights are human rights. You don't know that. You don't even want to appreciate it. SADU members are not machines. They are not, they don't stay in classrooms when children are released to go home. So issues that affects them in the townships, in the community, they affect them even at school. SADU members must begin to be encouraged to remain united under their organization and make sure that education is being championed in the direction that we want to do. But we can't attack workers' rights, which are human rights. I think also what we are missing, what we're also missing, but we understand because concentration, because concentration of DA members is concentrated on affluent areas. The issue of skills migration is a reality. You can get a teacher today who's well-equipped, well-knowledgeable about the subject matter, but the person will then migrate 6 months down the line because he wants to also go to urban areas where better conditions exist for him to or her. Those are the issues that are impeding on the progress that we want to record. If you listen to Honorable Magwebu spoke about artificial intelligence, I can tell you, Mhlekazwa, that artificial intelligence is going to lead to labor displacement. It's a reality. What do? Do you still say kids must be taught in whatever, when kids must be taught to be ready for the 4th Industrial Revolution? They must be taught to do that. And when you do that, you don't do that in absent isolation of realities. The reality is that you don't become mechanical about realities. The reality is that as we go towards 4th Industrial Revolution, our own curriculum must be able to speak to that. But as they speak to that, how much of time do we need for us to be able to be on the transitional period? I think that's one thing that we need to do. But also what you don't speak about, Honorable Makwe.
Can you take us, on what point are you rising, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I just want to find out if the Honorable Ntebe will take a question from me, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Ntebe, you have indicated that the 4th Industrial Revolution, robotics and artificial intelligence is here to stay. I agree with you on that, and we need to prepare our children. We agree on that, but here's my question. How do we prepare them? Because we have to do it now, and we need resources. When resources are spent, the minister said, there's not enough money, the economy is not performing, and therefore we need to cut, the budget is cut across all departments. Now the question is, how do you explain that statement when the VIP protection budget is 2.6 billion, and with that money, I'll break it down for you. Take your calculator in your pocket. You could build 500 state-of-the-art schools at 5 million rand each. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that?
Honorable Ntebe.
Typical of DA members, you request, typical of DA members, you request to ask a question, you give a keynote address. This thing is very easy. This thing is very easy. You work within your means. We sit here, you are part of the process that appropriates funds for critical, no, but you sit. Maybe he does not want my answer, Chair. Let me proceed. But you also sit here and speak about VIP protection, but your executive members here in Western Cape are staying in state houses. Are staying in state houses. Your premier is staying in a state house.
Honorable Makwebo, you are not even interrupting the member. You are now debating with the member.
What you don't tell us, Honorable Magwebu, is that the provincial government that you are praising here has just passed, is going to pass a bill that is going to promote selling of alcohol in schools. You don't tell us. You are telling us about experience. Where can you buy experience? Where can you buy it? Honorable Michelle, you spoke very good about issues that are impacting on us. But don't claim easy victories and mask difficulties. You come here and you want to claim that when there's progress in terms of the percentage pass in schools, is DA government. When there's absence of infrastructure, is national government. How does that happen? No, but how does that happen? When there's no infrastructure, it's national department. When there's a passing mark that is okay, it's your provincial government. I think we must leave issues of becoming hypocritical about issues and be realistic. Honorable Harting spoke about issues of infrastructure. They are very critical. Infrastructure must be up to scratch for our kids to be able to go to school. But I can tell you now, Honorable Harting, issues of infrastructure, they take time. If you listen to our own government through various pronouncements, there's a bigger edge to ensure that we go towards infrastructure that is adequate, that is responding to the challenges.
Can you just take your seat? On what point are you rising, Honorable Harting?
I just would like to know if Honorable
Can I hear Honorable Harting? Can you please speak up?
Honorable Deputy Chair, thank you. And also for giving me now the opportunity to ask what I want to ask. I would like to know whether Honorable Ntebe will take a short question from me.
Honorable Ntebe, are you prepared to take a question?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, he's prepared to take a question.
Honorable Chair, my colleague is from the Northwest, leader there is very knowledgeable. I would like to know, I said that there are 3,040 schools with open pit toilets where they've got new latrine systems. How long will it take to just fill the holes of the pit toilets of one school?
In Northwest, the number is 154, so your number is incorrect. But I can tell you now, you don't just rock up in the morning and fix a toilet. There's processes to be followed for a pit toilet to be corrected. So I cannot stand here and tell you that this thing is going to be fixed. Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Lund.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, I see the Honorable Ntebe has just run out, so hopefully you'll be a bit lenient with your time until he comes back so I can respond to him as well. Otherwise, I'm sure the rest of the ANC members will stay awake and convey the message to your colleague. The first thing I actually wanted to agree with the Honorable Ntebe is that most of this debate today, I am really happy in how it progressed. It shows that we are all on the same page with the need to address education and equipping learners to compete in the job market, starting up their careers.
Honorable Lund, can you take your seat, Honorable House Chair? On what point are you rising?
Deputy Chair, I'm checking whether the Honorable Lund can lead us like Honorable Ntebe and take a simple question from me.
Are you prepared, Honorable Lund? He said yes.
Maybe if you can, my simple question is that out of this thing of pit toilet, to understand the impact of the historical injustice called apartheid that is done to us as black people.
Honorable Lund.
Honorable Member, I do not think there's a single public representative in this country that do not understand and is deeply ashamed of what happened during apartheid and also fully committed to addressing the injustices of the past. This includes addressing infrastructure like you just said. What my concern is, and what some of my colleagues raised, is why is it that more than 2 decades into the new South Africa, we still have schools, majority black learners that still have to use those toilets? Why is that the case? Why has this not been the #1 priority of every single education department, every single department of public works? Honorable Member, you're not listening, you're talking to others. I'm speaking to you because this is a problem in your very own province, and it's still not addressed in your own province. So what I'm asking, don't take cheap shots on things that is deeply problematic in the country. Make sure that you address it. I will also, the questions that Honorable Nzimande and Honorable Zwane wanted to ask, you are free to ask that as well. Honorable Masuku, Deputy Minister Masuku, the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Nobody is saying that progress has not been made. Nobody is saying that it's not been made. But what we are saying is that progress is not quick enough. We cannot continue
Honorable
leaving...
Lord, can you take your seat? Honorable Zwane, on what point are you rising?
I'm rising to find out if Honorable Lund can take a question. He has invited me to ask a question. I'm doing so.
Are you prepared, Honorable Lund? Yes, he says he's prepared.
Thank you. Why is it that, Honorable Lund, you don't acknowledge the fact that the Minister of Basic Education has been in this house several times with the Deputy Minister explaining that ASIDI has been used to address infrastructural issues, including the issue of pit latrines. And she further explained that they've been able to build 1 school per week in the Eastern Cape, addressing these issues of pit latrines and infrastructure.
Honorable Lund, I don't know what is the question.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Zwane, I will continue what I said with my answer to my address to Deputy Minister, and it will cover your question as well, so I'll just point you out. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results. We've made progress. We have eradicated pit toilets in many schools. We have eradicated or improved the quality of educations in many areas, but it's not where it should be. All the schools are not yet addressed. The toilets, the infrastructure. Billions are taken away from the education budget. You can say it's because of the economy. It's not just because of the economy. Why is the economy the way it is? It's because the government, of which you were a cabinet minister over the past 9 years, allowed looting to take place of our money in this country. Money that should have gone to the kids. Money that should have addressed that problems of infrastructure. Money that should have employed more teachers. Money that should have lifted the standard of education in South Africa to a level that we can be proud of, to a level where our kids can compete. So I'm saying, yes, good things have happened, but it is not where it should be. And we cannot be proud of where we are at the moment because we are losing millions of kids as they fall out of the system. Honorable Ntebe is still not here, and I'm going to now address this, but he is quite happy to say, do not claim easy victories. He touches the issue of selling alcohol at schools. I mean, Honorable Ntebe, there's people that actually get married at schools because they cannot afford all these fancy functions. You're not going to sell alcohol to underage kids. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you actually think that, then you don't even read the policy. So I will actually make sure that Honorable Ntebe can actually read it before he comes and make ridiculous remarks like that again. Honorable Ntebe also is the absolute SATU defender. You know what's the problem? It's not the teachers that do a good job. It's not the teachers that put in the extra hours. It's not the teachers that put in that extra effort to make sure that the kids succeed. The problem are the teachers that do not do what they are supposed to do, that do not do the work that they get paid to do. It's those teachers that needs to be measured, evaluated, improved, and if they do not improve, get out of the system because they are negatively impact the future of our kids in this country. And by defending SATU, who do not want to get rid of those teachers, you are affecting the future of our country. And there is no defense in that. I wish every single public representative in this house showed the passion that Honorable Magwebu is showing. Because people laugh. But I mean, South Africans should actually say, listen, why doesn't all our public representative show this passion and this anger?
Honorable Harting, you know what you're doing is wrong. Eh? Please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Can you continue, Honorable?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. There was Honorable Zwane gave a very interesting quote. Rapid technological change. Now, those members who were part of my select committee who went to Limpopo recently, we had a good example of rapid technological change. Because Honorable Matavula actually stood up and said the only place where there's Wi-Fi in the municipality is in the mayor's car. So if you want Wi-Fi, you need to drive after the mayor. That is not the rapid technological change that people want. Because you can laugh at what Honorable Mitchell is saying, but you can now go to any area in the Western Cape and there's Wi-Fi accessibility. And it's not just about being affluent. It's about using the money that you've got, using it wisely. Because billions have been stolen. Billions have been stolen under the leadership of the now, thank goodness, former President Jacob Zuma. But unfortunately, many of his praise singers is still sitting in this house. You know that Hansard is recording every speech that you are saying. And every single one of you are going to be judged by history because you defended the Zuma administration and allowed billions to be stolen, billions that should have gone to ensuring that every single part of this country should get better services.
Honorable members, just hold. Honorable members, it's not only you. It's not only you. I'm also struggling to hear the member. I'm also struggling to hear the member. And then the next thing, somebody will be standing up requesting me or expecting me to make a ruling on a statement that the member might have made. And I would not be able to do that. Don't drown the member. Heckle. There's a difference between heckling and drowning a member and interrupting a member whilst he or she speaks. There's a difference. There's no point of shouting and jumping and becoming... Can you continue, Honorable Member?
Honorable Deputy Minister Masuku, Honorable Mutara, you did touch a very valid point that the face of lack of literature, using your own words, and I'm going to put back the face of unemployment, due to the historical challenges, the historical system that we've got that's still in this country is black. And when we raise this issue, it is because we need to make sure that those injustices and challenges that we need to overcome needs to be overcome a lot quicker. And the frustration that we've got, that every single member in this house has, is that is not happening quick enough. And we cannot say, I know you were MEC in Mpumalanga previously. So kids that were born during your tenure of MEC, that's now gone past grade 4, they still cannot read. My question is, what did you do in your own province to ensure that the literacy levels of grade 4s, of grade 5s, of grade 6s are at the level that we expect it to be? You're a maths teacher. That should be one of the things that you drove in your cabinet back then. But why is it that to this day, Mpumalanga is one of the 3 worst provinces when it comes to literacy levels? And it's very easy to just say, it's a black thing, it's a white thing, whatever. We need to acknowledge the face is black. Yes, we must. It is essential to address it. So we need to keep doing that, working towards that every single day. Deputy Chairperson, you almost got a promotion. Deputy Chairperson, I want to finish off the way we started, thanking every...
Honorable Zwane, can I recognize? On what point are you raising on my?
Find out if Honorable Lund can still take yet another question. Yes.
Yes, he's prepared to take a question.
Honorable Lund, I understand what you're saying, but there is unfairness in what you're saying. Because you are aware that the Minister of Basic Education again has started a big campaign on assisting learners to read. It has been reported in this house by the department. What is it that you want the department to do? Because we are addressing the issues that you are raising progressively.
Honorable Lund.
Honorable Zwane, as I've said, I think 2 or 3 times in my closing remarks, I'm not saying that nothing is being done. I've never said that. Nobody said that today. What I am saying, and that is the concern, is not enough is being done. We are not a country that we can continue saying, listen, there's no money, there's no money. Money is tight. The budget is tight. We're struggling with the economy. But there's enough money to look after our children, to look after our future, if the governing party makes sure that the little money that's available gets spent where it's needed to, gets spent wisely. And that is the frustration that we have. And it's not just me. It's the frustration that millions of South Africans have, is that we are not looking after. Actions speak louder than words. Actions is currently not matching the words of this government. So, as I was about to conclude, and we can finish this after since the time is running out, I do want to thank everybody for participating in this debate, for everybody acknowledging the problem that we are facing. And now the important thing is, colleague, we are representing 9 provinces here. We are also representing the national parliament. We are the lawmakers that can make the change. When ministers come to our select committees, it is our responsibility to push ministers to do that extra bit, to get outside of the comfort zone, to not have business as usual, because if we keep continuing to do that, we are failing the future generation. Deputy Chairperson, thank you for how you chaired the meeting, and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much. Honorable House Chair.
Deputy Chair, I will humbly request that in future, maybe after going through Hansard, you made a proper ruling. It was a very important debate. I never wanted to disturb Honorable Lund. But when he was responding to the question by Honorable Mangete, after making serious allegations about the very same province that I represent in Mpumalanga, it's a totally contradiction. Is it allowed in terms of our rules to make a statement in the House that you know that it's false? Because according to his statement, it's doom and gloom in Mpumalanga. But where I come from, I know that we have got learners that are in Cuba, that are doctors studying out of the program that is being done by government. But when he was dealing with these questions, he made assertion that all is bad. So I want you to go through Answered, because that statement was false. That is why Honorable Mangete raised a point of order. But I respected him not to disturb him.
No, thank you very much. I think what House Chair Nyambi is saying, honorable members, you're expecting me to rule on this matter, isn't it so? Honorable Chetty, you're expecting me to rule, isn't it? No. He raised an issue in the House. No, he raised an issue, brought something to my attention. Now, just yesterday I made a ruling on misleading the House. And I made it clear that if a member intentionally and knowingly mislead the House by presenting facts, knowing very well that those facts are wrong, they will have to be balanced. They will have to be checked. So Honorable Nyama is quite specific that putting a request that we we need to balance that and put the correct facts or the situation in the House. Honorable members, that concludes the business of the day. I would like to take the opportunity, Honorable Zwane, may I take the opportunity to thank the Deputy Minister Masuku for having availed yourself to be part of this debate. That concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned.